Very good. All right, I'm gonna get things started. We got 1 o'clock? Yep, 1 o'clock. So welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for coming today. I'm Jason Bruns. I'm the director of the Engineering Center of Excellence. What happened? And there, good shot of the ceiling. That was a nice ceiling shot there. Let's try this again. Hopefully we'll bring it back. Oop, other direction. I think we even zoomed out. Okay, we'll make this go. I'm Jason Bruns. I'm the director of the Engineering Center of Excellence. I have Chris Williams here, assistant director for Minnesota State Advanced Manufacturing Center of Excellence. So I want to welcome you all to attending and welcome to the speakers. Again, thank you very much for having them here as well. Thank you for the panelists. You'll see them as well. And you'll notice that just like you're seeing now, we're trying this hybrid. And we're going to do this. We're going to make this work. We're going to have wins. We're going to have losses. But at the end of the day, we're going to make this work. I think it'll be wonderful, no matter what happens coming out of this. We've got some great speakers, great panelists, and I hope you enjoy it. A little housekeeping. A survey will come out. So please, please, please fill out that survey. I anticipate that survey coming out tomorrow or the next day. Please fill that out. That's the only way we can make things better. Get some good input, get some good survey results. The video from this event will also be available on our website. Even the zoom out feature that we just had will be available on that video. So I hope you reach out to that. If you want some, share that with coworkers and other people that you know, please do. Those people that are looking for professional development, this contributes to 2 hours of professional development. All you have to do is reach out to me, Jason Bruns, jason.bruns@mnsu.edu, or go to our website, the Engineering Center of Excellence, and go into our Engineering Manufacturing Workforce Partnership Seminar. And under there, you can go ahead and contact me. And then I will directly send those hours back to you. So please reach out. So I want to introduce my first speaker. And we had a replacement pinch hitter speaker. So Erin is speaking in replace of Phil today. Erin Olson is with Real Time Talent. She's a director of strategic research. Erin is a dynamic leader that brings new and intersectional approaches to addressing the talent shortage challenge in Minnesota. Coming from a background spanning economic development, housing, transportation, and workforce analyst, Erin provides diverse workforce alignment research service to broad-based industry leaders in Minnesota, fostering data information, decision-making, and innovation between workforce, higher education, business, and economic development systems. Erin directs all research and strategic efforts of real-time talent among key stakeholders, utilizing real-time data, traditional education and labor market information, as well as employer data to deliver insightful labor market analysis of key industry sectors and detailed advising and strategic development in high growth and high opportunity career pathways. Erin holds 2 master's degrees in urban and regional planning and public health from the University of Minnesota, where she focused on community, economic development, housing, and population studies. She also holds a bachelor's degree in anthropology. So with all ado, hopefully we'll let Erin go ahead and take over. So Erin, you're up.
I don't have any audio.
Sounds great. Hear me?
Oh yeah. Oh good.
Yeah.
Nice and loud, huh?
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Great. Well, we'll just go ahead and jump right in. If at any point my sound cuts out or video cuts out or anything else, just send me a note through chat and I'll be able to troubleshoot that on my end as well. Thank you so much for having me here today. I am the second choice, I have to say. I know that my colleague Phil Ariano, our project manager for workforce development, he was planning to give this presentation today, but he's been out for a couple of weeks, and so I'm jumping in to fill his place. Today, in just about 15 minutes or so, I will be going through some of the key trends that we're seeing in the engineering, manufacturing, and technology space, and really lifting up some of the key trends that we've seen during COVID-19. Statewide, what we're seeing is some of the key occupation gaps and award gaps where we might be underproducing in the talent pipeline from early on in occupations that require certifications or core skill sets for entry level, all the way up through post-secondary at all different levels. So we'll start really big picture, and then we'll drill down to get a little bit more specific to manufacturing itself. So one of the key narratives that we've been hearing lately from businesses is we can't find enough people. Many employers are still struggling with grasping this concept at a time when we have relatively high unemployment and a larger than usual number of people who are completely out of the labor force altogether right now. But on a broad scale, we still just don't have enough people in the right careers to meet employers' demand right now or in the future. Even if we could create opportunities that are available here in Minnesota and the people that are trained to do those jobs, we would still be facing a gap. We have mismatches in the geography of talent and opportunity, misalignments between the skills that people have and the employer talent needs here in our state. And even when we have that right mix of people, skills, and opportunities, our antiquated systems of finding talent, applying for jobs, and connecting with employers keep those connections from happening, especially right now when so much about how we do work and how we find talent from the employer lens has changed. And so much on the education side about how how courses are taught, how people are learning has really changed over the past year. And we also know that bias plays a massive role in perpetuating employment disparities, often implicitly and systematically, in addition to the explicit forms. When we look at what has happened here, this is just giving one snapshot and one geography here, what's happened in terms of the job postings for positions across our communities. We've seen that we had a huge change, a huge diversion from the norm last year in 2020 when we had those first shutdowns during COVID-19. You can see the gray line on the screen here is indicating the volume of total job postings in just the 7-county metro as one example, and how long it took for us to recover to something that looked somewhat like what job posting volumes were like in prior years. That yellow line that you see kind of bobbing up there, it shows 2021 and the volumes of job postings right now. We've got preliminary data for for last month as well. And we're seeing really things starting to look like patterns we've seen prior to the pandemic, but we're still really behind where we were in the past. In March 2020, job postings were down 0.6 from March 2019. So just down a hair, but honestly, typically we see at least a 6% increase year over year in posting volumes in our regions, just from natural growth, just from natural demand increases from our businesses. So we're seeing that we're lagging behind about 3 years from where we would expect ourselves to be by now in terms of job posting volumes. And just talking about this past summer, we actually saw a pretty good boost. By June 2021, postings were up by almost 25% from where they were last summer. And we were tracking behind the 2019 numbers by only about 2%. So we're coming up quick, and we did see more momentum from businesses that were starting to really hire more, bringing in more talent. That has started to slow down. One thing I really wanted to point out during, for just over the course of 2020, what happened with job postings in engineering, manufacturing, and technology in particular. When we look at the impact of the pandemic on different career fields, the impacts were so broad, there's almost no generalization we could make at that high level across all sectors. We know the severe impacts on hospitality and tourism, how devastating it was for our restaurant industry and our hotel industries, not only here, but in other parts of the nation. But when we really look at what happened in engineering, manufacturing, and technology careers, we actually saw a rapid increase in demand among employers. A lot of that demand really happening in logistics, in warehouse roles, and things that had to do with the changing nature of our supply chains and how we get things and where things are coming from. But also in machinist, mechanic roles, key roles in the automotive, which also falls under that same cluster. So we saw some really critical, almost surprises, things where we knew that talent shortages were coming on the horizon, but the posting activity and the openings that we started to see were signaling that some of those shortages were becoming even more severe, much more rapidly than initially suggested. So just putting two sectors side by side, we've got engineering, manufacturing, and technology job postings on the left, and health science on the right. These were the two sectors where we saw really the opposite trend of what we saw in many of the other sectors, where these two are really able to rebound quite quickly after the pandemic started. You can see that red line there is showing the total volume of job postings in 2021 compared to the prior 2 years. And so kicking off 2021, our volume of job postings in engineering, manufacturing, and technology were up significantly by April of this year. And if I were to extend this line out, we actually had a second bump that started to come up again in June and July. So now bringing us, kind of pulling out the lens a little bit and starting to look at Minnesota. We're going to keep everything pretty statewide from here on out. We have forecasting is always tricky, no matter whether or not there's a pandemic or not. Forecasting is always our best estimate of what the future might be based on our current situation and our current scenario. And as we know, things are still changing very, very rapidly, day to day. How we might think of a forecast or think about the future for our state's businesses might be very different from what it was like yesterday or last week or last month, for that matter. And so we've been modeling some worst case scenario, I'll call it, forecast there in red, and an optimistic scenario in yellow to give us a bit of a range to say, well, if conditions don't change, what are we working with based on some of those initial forecasts from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, indeed, where we might be 3 years out from now or 5 years out from now. And then in a best case scenario, if things really turn around, if we have if we don't have resurgence of COVID, if we don't have similar negative effects on our economy, what could things look like? And so we've modeled that out in yellow. And as you can see, that baseline, that worst case scenario growth rate for our state, we're looking at about 0.2% annual growth averaged out over the next 5 years. And in our best case scenario, we might be looking at an average of about 1.5% annual average growth. And most of that is just recovering from the losses that we've had. As you can see, even that optimistic scenario does not get us back up to the employment that we had prior. And that's for a lot of different reasons. We knew that we were coming into a talent shortage. We knew that with our demographics of our state, we would be hitting a tight point for our talent. And the pandemic has caused many workers to rethink their career paths, rethink if this is a work, if this is the world of work that they signed up for. And so we've seen exits from our labor force in larger numbers than initial forecasts had indicated. And so that's why there is that gap between what that black line of our original forecast and where we might hope to get to one day. So now digging into what that means for occupation shortages, if we don't have enough people and we don't have efficient talent pipelines filling those roles that we need most, we're going to have shortages somewhere. And so this slide summarizes our top talent shortages statewide over the next 5 years based on our talent pipelines from programs here in the state and the demand that we forecast from local employers. And we see the greatest shortages in health science, IT, finance, and STEM careers. And really those occupations with the highest shortage really are our high wage, high skill, and post-secondary degree requiring occupations for the most part, in addition to trades and some industry credential occupations that really have high shortages as well. When we look on the flip side at those occupations that we anticipate having extra talent in potentially, it's a lot of those roles that were heavily hit by the pandemic: hospitality and tourism, business management and administration, and even warehouse and assembly roles, which we did see spike during the pandemic, but we're also seeing businesses really addressing the current environment with adding more automation, adding more technology to do more with less, because even though there might be technically surplus of talent in that space at the moment, from a business perspective, there's still a tight talent environment where talent has the opportunity to move. And so we're seeing a lot of high turnover in those roles. And so many of these occupations that we are forecasting extra talent or talent surplus, these are a lot of our lower wage occupations where we saw dramatic drops in postings. In most cases, again, there are exceptions. And many of these only require a high school diploma. And so one of the ways that we've been really thinking about these occupations is thinking of them as the opportunity occupations. We're using an opportunity to gateway to target model to think about how do these experiences stack up to help guide students and job seekers into their target occupation. Maybe they've started out as a cashier or retail salesperson, and in the midst of the pandemic, they're looking for, okay, what's my next step? What's my gateway occupation? What's that bit of education that can help me to boost into a higher wage occupation on a career path to a target occupation? So I'll kind of use that language here and there as I'm presenting today. So digging in specifically to manufacturing and engineering, manufacturing, and technology kind of as a broader bucket that I'll use primarily. You can see here in this list of those top occupation gaps in red at the top of the page, we've got a lot of construction management, engineering roles, logistics roles that we anticipate that we won't have enough talent to fill employer demand here in the state. And again, a lot of what we saw on the prior page, a lot of those more entry-level positions are showing up as very, very moderate talent surplus. I would almost not even want to say that anything in blue on the bottom is something we should focus on, because 2 or 3 surplus, that's almost nothing to me. So looking at the top here, some of the most significant shortages really are in roles where we need post-secondary partnership, and we need post-secondary to help lead in some of these solutions for our businesses. We can also take a look at specifically the post-secondary award gaps that might exist. So and how we come to this is we take national benchmarks. So nationwide, if we were to take a typical community with our mix of demand for these types of occupations, what's the benchmark or what's the target that we might set for graduate awards at a given level? And when we do that look, we actually find that many of these, we actually also have shortages of graduate awards coming through our post-secondary system as well. So we actually need quite a few more construction managers, civil engineers, cost estimators, industrial engineering technologists and technicians coming through our programs to help support the demand locally for talent with those credentials. Oops, I went forward a little bit too far. Additionally, we can look at the skill gaps. And so there are critical shortages in skills, and when we layer that on top of the last 2 sets of gap information that I showed you, this helps us to get that deeper picture of the practicality. What does this really mean when we're talking about individuals and the knowledge and skills and competencies that they hold? So I've done this just for very broadly across all engineering, manufacturing, and technology positions, but we can actually get pretty granular with this analysis and look at really where do we see that the talent that we have in Minnesota is maybe not matching up with the positions that are in demand here in Minnesota. So I'll give you one example if we drill it down just to one of those occupations, just to give you a little something to think about as I'm closing here. So if we take a look at logistics roles, just as one example, say I'm an employer and I want to hire a logistician for $75,000 per year. That's the wage I want to offer, which is pretty close to the average wage here in Minnesota for that position. If I just look at the talent that has those exact skills, has worked in that role prior, or is currently working or unemployed and looking for work, I have about 1,859 people in Minnesota that might potentially accept my offer because maybe they're making less than that at their current job, but they're fully skilled and able to jump into that role. If we're thinking statewide, that's not a huge talent pool to be trying to attract to your position. So if we expand our net a little bit as an employer searching for that talent and think about, well, what's the percent of talent that might be accessible to me at that wage rate that maybe doesn't have every skill set, doesn't have prior work in that particular role, but has experience in a role that's very, very similar, has a skill set that's very, very similar, maybe 75% of the knowledge, skills, and competencies that are required. And right away, our potential talent pool expands to about 25,500 potential candidates. And just taking a look at what some of those similar occupations might be, It'd be things like project management specialists, even financial investment analysts, or personal services managers, or other roles in transportation, a transportation type capacity. So it's targeting those currently unemployed talent with a background in these areas, or offering targeted education and training programs that look to recruit students from these occupations and move into logistics careers, as our example here, can really help those individuals to continue to advance their skills and grow their careers, while also opening up space for individuals new to the job market to fill in their place in some of those more entry-level positions in those the opportunity occupations that we had talked about before. And so to do that, again, we're looking at those gaps. Where are potentially some of those gaps, say, between a project manager and a logistician? What are the things that we really need to focus on when we're thinking about education and training to help people make that transition to a higher wage, higher growth, higher skill career area? So for example, there might be some gaps in knowledge in transportation, production and processing, mathematics, mechanical competencies, some things that need to be focused on. But then there is a core set of skills that are carried over as strengths from the other related experience that they have. And so with that, I'm hoping that we maybe have a couple, 3 or 5 minutes for a little bit of Q&A. I would love to hear your reactions to anything that I presented today, or even share with me what new insights stood out to you. What insights have you gained from the information that you just saw?
And then we can see what kind of chat.
Yeah.
So if there's any question, I think we have enough time for one question. So if you can send it through the chat, that would be great. And then we can flip that over to Aaron, and Chris is monitoring that. Any question whatsoever that you'd like to go ahead and ask Aaron, that we can go ahead and have that answered for you.
Yeah.
She'll be sharing these afterward.
Right, she'll be sharing the slides as well. We'll make those available.
Mm-hmm.
So we have one question. How much has the wage increased since March of 2020?
How much has the wage increased since March of 2020?
That's a tricky one, just because a lot of the wage data hasn't been published yet for 2021. So I think the most current official wage information I have is from 2020 still. So most occupations had a big wage bump between 2019 and 2020. We saw, by thousands of dollars, one of the largest increase in wages between 2019 and 2020 than we've seen for a long time. So I'm sorry, I don't have a more specific number for you, but we have seen them increasing.
Hey, very good. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for all your information. We got to move on. To keep on our pace and keep on track. So the next section on the agenda is an employer best practices from talent attraction and retention. I've got 3 wonderful people that help have this discussion. Jessica Miller is a workforce strategy consultant, South Central, Southwest, and Southeast. Della Ludwig, workforce strategy consultant, Central Minnesota. And Sean Hertzke, MA, MBA, workforce strategy consultant. And I'll let you take it away. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Hi, everybody. We're excited to be here today. I'm Jessica Miller, and I'm the workforce strategy consultant for Southwest and South Central Minnesota. Major industries that we focus on in my region are manufacturing is number 1, healthcare, transportation, construction, and agriculture. I cover the counties from Waseca County up to Big Stone County, and I'm going to pitch it over to my colleague, Sean.
Hey everybody, my name is Sean Hertzke. I'm the workforce strategy consultant for Northeast Minnesota. Our primary industries up there are healthcare, construction, of course, extraction, mining industry. And yeah, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Della Ludwig.
Hi, everyone. I am Della Ludwig. I am the workforce strategy consultant for Central Minnesota. I cover 13 counties here, kind of surrounding the upper part of the metro area. So all the way from Wilmer, Monticello, Hutchinson, Litchfield, St. Cloud area, all the way over to Taylor's Falls. So I focus on manufacturing month as well as healthcare, and my background is in recruiting and HR. So I look forward to talking with you today.
All right, so we're working on getting some slides up here. There should be one screen that looks like that. Yeah. So we're going to spend our time talking about best practices across the state of Minnesota that we've heard of in our work with our employers across the state. We work directly with employers on focusing recruiting and retention strategies, building those strategies by working with our school districts, by working in our communities. And you can flip it to the next slide, please. All right, here's our map. So, and here are some key elements of some of the work that we do across the state. And you can see our counties that we have by region, as well as our colleagues that we work with as well. We'll send this information out so you have direct contact information to work specifically with the consultant in your region if you need assistance or want to work on developing and implementing any of the strategies that we talk about today. Flip it to the next slide. So today's workforce, this workforce that we have today has options. They have lots of options. And as we've all made it through this pandemic and are continuing to work our way through it, life has changed for everybody, and that includes the people that are working in your organizations. The things that we have found by working with our employers and by working with our partners in career force that work with job seekers are today's workforce is really in need of flexibility. They require and demand and respect inclusivity in their workplace. They like to be invested in. They want the opportunity for the employer to be as invested in their skills development as they are in working for their organization. They like working remotely. Everybody's kind of gotten a taste of that, and they want to move forward with that when it's an option. They want to feel connected to their workforce. Relationship we have found is so important. Gone are the days where you can onboard somebody in your organization and then just kind of let them be. You have to build that sense of connection, and that moves into that desire and purpose for the work that they're doing. Having that ability to balance their work life and their home life, and that option to keep things family centered, to be able to take care of their kids, to be able to take care of their parents if they need. Competitive pay and benefits, that's drawing people into changing jobs. The last statistic I just saw was 65% of our workforce that's currently working is looking for other options. So they're putting the feelers out there, and they're looking to see what other opportunities are available for them. And they like to feel like their employer is invested in them and their progression into the next opportunity for them. We've had some employers that are offering new opportunities for their workforce every 2 years to keep them engaged. So how are other employers across the state adapting to these needs of today's workforce? We're going to talk about some of those things today. First up, we're going to talk to Sean about flexible options and wages and benefits. So we'll move to the next slide, please.
That's all good. Thank you, Jessica. It's awesome to be able to talk to everybody today. So one of the things that I am glad that came out in the last conversation was the question about wages. It's something that I know we all get quite a bit in the work that we do. There's a lot of concern by employers about how much wages are going up and the impact on the organization. And one of the things I like about this particular slide is it's looking beyond wages and talking about sort of the total package for the employee. And I know that when we presented this slide at other opportunities like this, a lot of people have said, oh, I can't do this, I can't do all of this. It's not about doing all of the things on this slide. It's really about what can you do to become the employer of choice for your region? What can you do to become more attractive? So there's going to be some things on this slide, like if you're a manufacturer, remote work, probably not an opportunity for you in that particular case. But there might be things on the slide that you could implement, or some things you could come up with on your own that would enhance your marketability to the employees that are out there. Because really what you're doing is you're marketing yourself to the available labor. So the flexible options, remote work, flexible scheduling, school hour shifts, on-call options. There's something that we're trying to develop right now up in Northeast Minnesota, where we're highlighting employers that have opportunities during school, what would be the typical school day. To sort of entice some of these parents that left the labor force during the pandemic to come back and work at these employers. Choosing your own hours, if that's a possibility, job sharing, being able to take 2 part-time positions, being able to offer 2 part-time positions for 1 full-time position, being able to work from home with kids if that's a possibility. And then the information about wages and benefits, hiring retention bonus for both new and current staff and their supervisors. Something that we hear quite a bit about on the work that we do is not only offering a one-time incentive bonus or pay scale changes for new employees, but also using this as a retention tool to be able to keep your current employees as well. You don't want them to be forgotten, and you don't want them to think that they're going to get a better deal working for somebody else by leaving your organization. Unlimited time off is something that we're beginning to see. The other thing that we're seeing right now as well is front-loading time off, where instead of accruing PTO over time, a lot of people are going back to offering 2 weeks or 3 weeks off, initially when you're hired. Wage increase for those not needing health insurance, extra time off and move wage increases. These are all opportunities that you can do. One thing that we're seeing a lot, especially with call centers and things of that nature, is waiting period for benefits, offering everything on day 1. It's a fantastic retention tool if you're trying to keep people, especially through their training program, to be able to offer the benefits immediately. It also makes it easier for that transition if they're coming into your organization. Tiered wages, this is something that we're also starting to see now. The more hours you work up the full time, the higher your hourly wages. Bonus pay for not calling in missing work as a retention tool. And then daycare, or childcare, I should say, and subsidized childcare costs. That's something that's really important as well. Childcare, especially during the pandemic, we saw just how important it is and how it's necessary to be able to offer these services. At the same time, it's a huge necessity. It's also an incredibly low paying position with not a lot of opportunities for advancement. So being able to integrate that into your facility, or being able to integrate that close to your facility, is something that would offer a benefit. And it's something that Duluth, for example, has done up in Northeast Minnesota, where they rezoned areas. So now you can, in some of these manufacturing districts, offer a childcare facility. So what I'd like to do now is go ahead and hand it over to Dylan.
Great, thank you. We're going to move to the next slide. We're going to talk about diversity for a while, and really how to diversify your work. So especially in manufacturing, on average for the state of Minnesota, it's 70% male and 83% white people in manufacturing. So how do we help diversify that? We have quite a few different initiatives going on throughout the state of Minnesota to help with this. One of the things that we're doing is Central Minnesota had started numerous years ago, the Immigrant Employment Connection Group. And that was an IECG group, was the acronym. We love our acronyms. And what we did with that is we would target specific populations with high unemployment rates. And we looked at different groups, including second chance workers. We looked at vocational rehab. And then we also looked at Somali and Hispanic outreach. And again, trying to recruit and retain those employees, especially giving them that chance. So this is a great cohort in hiring and building your community, and really looking at your numbers and information to see how you can diversify your population. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about was in a couple of years ago, we started the Inclusive Workforce Employer, which is an IWE program, and that is focusing on being inclusive for your workforce. It's another initiative that we're offering. And we are working with the Somali outreach in the St. Cloud community, as well as in the Wilmer area. And just recently worked with an employer in Monticello, and they hired over 30 Somali people to fill the openings that they had, and really help them understand their culture, and then went from there. So I'm also going to then turn it over to Jess. She's going to talk a little bit about the Hmong outreach that has been done in her region.
So Southwest Minnesota, we had an employer that was looking to grow his Hmong workforce that from a demographic that was available to him. And what he did is he worked with a community leader, and that community leader from the Hmong population came in and kind of did a workplace assessment. And then what he did is he brought in and they made some adjustments to the workplace based on some advice that they were given. At that point, then they worked on creating a tour, and they filled a bus with people from the community, and they did a tour of the workplace of the manufacturing facility, and they showed people from the Hmong population the products and what do they do and how to get around the facility, and they were able to hire 7 of the people that were on that tour. So that's just one idea that has worked out well and that can be replicated across regions. We'll switch to the next slide here and talk about some recruiting strategies. I can't say enough about the use of social media and tapping into the tools that we have available for us. When my oldest started school, I noticed that I was missing some of those things in the community, like signing up for sports. And so I joined a mom group on Facebook. And what I found within minutes was it was a gold mine for my job in regards to workforce development. Because I'm telling you, these moms share lots of information about employers in the area. And what I have found is that you can promote your business, your jobs, your benefits, everything on social media, and it is so powerful. And it's powerful to get involved in those groups within your communities as well, because people talk and they share that information in those groups. So just some advice there is to really get and tap in what your community is saying about you. Ways that our hiring and recruiting strategies have pivoted over COVID is the use of virtual fairs, and curbside hiring events. And so when we were limited with doing things on site, we were doing more open air type of hiring events to engage people to drive up a drive-through or to walk through or to come through a park and receive information. Other ways that employers are really kind of focusing is how can they make check into. We have an employer that hires every single applicant. They don't turn anyone away. And then they provide training. Hiring, one strategy is that hiring is everybody's responsibility. This company developed a media kit that includes different scripts and resources for their current employees to promote their open positions. Other strategies that we've seen where the employers turn it into a community event and they hire different food trucks and sponsor lunch or ice cream or other draws to get people there, and then they have a booth and they do on-site interviews. Definitely look at posting videos on your social media, promote your products, and then the people that make them. We have an employer in Southeast Minnesota, and they are really good about creating videos about their products and about the people who work there, and the power of being real. Their highest rated videos are their bloopers, and so they're just recorded on a phone, and people enjoy seeing real life and a peek at what it would be like to work in their organization. So I'm going to kick it back to Sean. We can go to the next slide and talk about some training programs.
Sure. For the sake of time, what I'm going to do is just very quickly go over this slide, and then I'm going to give it to Bella to bring us home. But for the training programs, there's a variety of free training programs, pre-employment, designed to provide basic skills and introduction to the sector. Along with the free basic programs that people can utilize, we had Coursera during the pandemic that Dee was able to offer. Hopefully we'll be able to offer some of that coming up.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Which individuals can utilize, which would be a free tool that could help them get some of those basic skills that you're looking for. One thing I want to touch on real quick is actually an employer in Dell's region that does this amazing thing where they have this paid day-long interview so that job seekers can see the culture, understand the job. They even get their employee discount at the gift shop on the day that they go to and participate in. So it gives them a full understanding of the job, what it's about, everything like that, and it gives them a taste for what it's like to work at that facility. Training programs, onboarding about how fantastic that is in order to keep people on and as a retention tool. Discovery Academy, you can see the information there about that. College degree tuition to dependent children is another fantastic retention tool. It's something that not only creates that sense of indebtedness and that sense of belonging to the community of the workplace that you're in, but also might help you develop the next talent pipeline for your organization, especially if they're going to something specific that your organization can use in the future. Transportation is a barrier to employment we hear about all the time. Car loan through payroll deduction is one way of being able to help address that. The other thing are things like van pooling and carpooling and other transportation offers, bus, that can help resolve that commuting issue. So the next thing I'd like to do is get over to Della.
Excellent, thank you. We're gonna move on to retention. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of things on here. Obviously, that additional touch or that personalized feeling is what everybody craves. We spend a lot of time and hours at work, so we want to make sure that we know people's children's names. We're writing thank you notes. We're recognizing them for their anniversaries. We're going above and beyond, offering additional benefits for those that are loyal to us. And some of the things that employers are now offering are on-site mental health counseling, free legal advice for marriage, divorce, wills. One of our next speakers, Greg from Cold Spring, will be talking a little bit about how they are hiring a chaplain to be on staff for spiritual and social well-being. They're also, one of the nice things that Greg will talk about is their Century Club. They have over or right around 800 employees, and more than a third of their employees are in their Century Club, which is 25 years of service or more. So that really says a lot about that manufacturer. Jess also just recently wrote an article, and that's going to be posted, I believe, today. And it's on the art of appreciation, the top 12 ways to show your employees you care. And just the little things, when a person's on vacation, let them be on vacation. Don't be pestering them, don't be texting them. Same with sick days. Don't be asking them to be coming in or to be calling into a meeting. Those things go a long way. Offering lunch, that's one of the major things I hear from employees, that we used to get lunch. How come we don't get lunch anymore? Offering them a gift card to a local business to support the community and giving them those extra treats. And that's a win-win for your community as well as your employees. So just keeping those things in mind. And then we'll go to the next one, and we're wrapping it up. We only have 2 slides left, so we're right on track. So we have the manufacturing month this month in October. We have a Workforce Wednesday event. We will have Commissioner Steve Grove that will be on this presentation. We'll be talking about diversifying your workforce, especially for manufacturing. Like I had stated earlier, it's for Minnesota, it's 70% male and 83% white. So how do we help get those numbers in line with the demographics for Minnesota? And then some of the other things we're doing are virtual tours. We are offering some magazines that will be virtual as well. And we're doing a tour of manufacturing, in-person tours. South Central and Jess's region, they are doing their tours on October 7th and 9th. In Central Minnesota, we are doing them throughout the month of October. Currently, in my region, I believe we have 14 businesses and 11 sponsors. We have 19 schools and over 1,000 students who are interested. This is your future workforce, so build those career pathways. If you need more information, definitely reach out to us on our team. And Jess can also talk a little bit about her South Central tour that she is doing.
Great, yeah, so we have about 10 employers that are currently signed up. We have a lot of virtual tours going on. And if you go to tourofmanufacturing.com, you'll see all of our tour videos from last year when we pivoted and went virtual. And you'll see our content for this year as well as we continue to update that. And the great thing is, as we put that information on the website, it gets to live there. And so we continually have people access that information from across the country, really, to check in and see what's happening right here in Minnesota. So that's pretty exciting to get to celebrate manufacturing for the month of October. Right now, we would love to open it up for any questions. We have just a couple minutes here for questions or even comments. If you have a best practice that you'd like to share, please pop that into chat, and we would love to highlight that and talk through any strategies that you might have or are looking into implementing in your region. We would be happy to help you with that. So any questions?
We have two so far.
Okay.
Gary asks, curious how unlimited time off works in terms of performance. I can see that for salaried positions, but how about hourly positions? Based on my understanding, many Americans lose or choose not to use vacation hours because of how that may impact their careers. Is that changing?
Unlimited time off is one of the things that's come up as an id. I don't really think it's become extremely popular, but essentially the process would be that you would essentially just ask for the time off, and it'd be kind of first come, first served, but there's no PTO bank or like you have 3 weeks off or anything like that. It's, you would ask for the time off, and if it was available to give it to you, they would just give you the time off then, without tracking it in the way that it typically is now. Of course, there are some issues with that, you know. Most of the time, PTO and vacation is budgeted as an expense in the budget. So not knowing if someone's going to take none this year or 3 weeks next year kind of makes it difficult to budget for it. However, it does also offer that flexibility where, you know, if someone needs to take time off for a variety of different reasons, they could just take the time off and not have to worry about the amount of time that it does. That being said, though, it is where I've seen it has been more in as a first come, first serve kind of deal with only X amount of people being able to use the benefit at one time, that type of situation.
And it is usually a salaried type position, and it's based more on, you don't have to work 40 hours if you can get the work done in 35, or if it takes you 50. They're not micromanaging your hours that you have to be sitting at your desk from 8 until 4:30 every day. You work and you get the work done, and it's a win-win for everybody involved.
If you think of paid time off, though, in regards to sick time, I think a lot of our businesses over the pandemic got a lot more flexible with sick time with their hourly employees as well, which was needed, of course.
We have a four-parter.
Okay.
I'll go one at a time.
Great.
Okay, so Marge asks, how can a manufacturing company combat poor work ethics for those employees we are able to find and hire on when it was difficult to find the person to begin with? For instance, attendance issues.
Culture. Start with your culture. Culture is everything. So it has to be from the top up. You need to be from day one, make sure that you're explaining that to the hires. If there are concerns or issues with that person or people that you're hiring, sitting down with them, understanding what the issues and concerns are, having somebody on the team that is more at their level, talking with them, discussing with them, making sure that they understand when that person's not there, how it affects everybody else within the company. But it really boils down to culture within your organization and the leaders within your community or within your business, and how you are relaying that information to these new hires. It is a little bit more teaching the soft skills and making sure that the new hires understand the expectations. But if you take that extra time in helping them understand the full picture, it's going to be a win for everybody involved.
Yeah, we have an employer that recently established 4 full-time people that are focused solely on retention. So instead of starting down that path of discipline for no call, no shows, they work with that employee and they find out why. So if you've got issues with being late, find out why. There could be things that you could do as an employer to assist them.
Being mindful of time, we're supposed to be into the panel discussion right now. Yep. So I think what we'll do is take these questions and send them out to the panelists, and then we'll post the responses back on our website. Perfect. So we will try to answer these questions, but we're going to move into the panel discussion.
Wonderful. So we're gonna have a flip flop here, Sean and Scott, thank you. And thank you very much, all of you, for still hanging in there on our hybrid model. This one will be interesting. We've got people that are remote, we got people that are here, so, and it's a combination of manufacturers and my deed folks. So I'm gonna go into the panel discussion and kind of introduce and try to get some questions to try to really, hopefully we can get some good answers out of them. So I'm first gonna introduce my deed team members, Marcy Jasper, she's with the Metro team, Jessica Miller is with the Southeast team, and Della Ludwig, who's she's with the Central Minnesota team. And so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna ask you each, can you please provide a little overview or introduce your industry partner that you've recognized and identified. And you know what? Talk with your industry partner, ask them about their company, and discuss with us what was a critical item that they might have overcome that they would like to share with you and that you would like to get from them. So Marcy Jasper, I'd like to have you lead out. Your partner is Scott, and he happens to be here in our room. So Marcy, please lead out with that, helping Scott work his way through that question.
Yes, definitely. I'll first introduce myself. I'm Marcy Jasper with Vocational Rehabilitation Services through DEED at the state of Minnesota. So I assist individuals with disabilities in finding and maintaining employment. I would like to introduce my partner in crime here, Scott Berscheid. Scott and I have known each other since 2008 and have actually worked together here with 3 different companies. So I will let him introduce himself now.
That's a brief intro, Marcy. Thanks. Hi, as Marcy said, Scott Berscheid. I am currently with Amazon, but I met Marcy back in 2008 when we were both so much younger. With Pitney Bowes, and then I transitioned over to Shutterfly. I've got over 20 years of manufacturing experience working 24/7 operations.
Great, thanks, Scott. So I'll explain just a little bit real quickly. When Scott and I started to work together back in 2008, how it all started was we had seen a number of postings for Pitney Bowes open, and we thought, hey, we can help these folks find some good employees. And this is maybe just a talent pool, again, working with folks with disabilities that they haven't thought of really looking into. So we sat down with Scott and some other folks at the time and said, hey, how can we work on this partnership? What we did with them then is Scott is definitely a champion when it comes to working with people with disabilities. He has a history in the field, which really, really helps. And he said, hey, why don't everybody that you have apply here, you let us know the name, and we will then look at that application and bring them in for an interview. And that was tremendous, because as you know, as employers, as HR staff, you probably get a lot of applications, and you probably get a lot of people you call to come in for interviews, you get a lot of no-shows coming in. Well, we've kind of done some of that screening already for them. So everybody that we sent them was for the most part already screened. We walked in, we knew what the job was, we knew what the job entailed, what would be needed for the job. So everybody that we were sending knew what the job was about. Scott, I'm going to kind of turn it over to you now, and you can kind of just piggyback on that of, how that worked with your business and how you made that work.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things with that, so when we started that relationship, my turnover, and I can give you the numbers all day long, was a little over 72% within the first 30 days. It was 2008, so we were in recession time, so that was a lot of fun as well. And we were really in a pinch to where, quite frankly, I needed to hire 110 individuals for full-time slots, and nobody wanted to work. I just couldn't get them. Very similar to what we're experiencing today. So as we were able to partner with DEED, one of the things that it actually helped us do is kind of open our eyes to different ways to potentially hire. Marcy had mentioned I worked as a job coach and a kind of I guess they call it a work specialist in social services a long time back, helping individuals with disabilities find jobs. And one of the things that when we first talked about was job carving and being able to look at things differently. Maybe it's different pieces of the actual overall job. And so sitting down with that group, honestly, it allowed us to do a couple different things. We invited them in, they helped evaluate our roles to, quite frankly, carve out where we might have some different areas, which then led us to actually break that down even further into looking at part-time employees, donut schedules, things that were outside of the realm of what we had actually traditionally done at Pitney Bowes. And in very short order, we were able to not only create a nice pipeline by that partnership, but fill all of our openings and then some. And as I believe it was Della might have alluded to on one of the answers there, it also helped our culture change. And the retention piece there is key, right? Like it's okay to be able to bring people in, we have the partnership, but then as we started bringing individuals in with different abilities across the board, we had an overall culture shift just within the facility. People started having better attendance, and I can't attribute it to anything, but it was a trend that we tracked and it was true. My overall unemployment, or not unemployment, but my overall turnover rate went to less than 3%, right? So I don't have to recruit, I don't have to hire, and for every spot that we actually needed, it was very simple to fill because we did have either that pipeline, or again, we just had a different way of looking at things and being able to even utilize the rest of our employee pool to kind of help fill those openings. Take that same strategy and apply it to Shutterfly, and look at what we're doing now and trying to get going in Amazon as well. And it's got a good historical usage for us.
I'm just going to jump in too quick and just to what Della said about culture is that one thing that Pitney Bowes done, which I loved, was they were very diverse. You guys were very diverse there in your employees. And so I believe it's got every morning you said hi in multiple different languages, and then also what they did was they had several folks that are deaf that were hired on. And so they actually started teaching all the employees sign language. So it was a very inclusive environment. Everybody felt welcome. Everybody felt like they belonged there. So that culture was really, really important with Pitney Bowes.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the Southeast team. Jessica Miller, will you introduce your partner in crime, if I might say, George Chappell, and introduce him, discuss some of the challenges that you guys work together on overcoming. So please share that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you've met me a little bit. I would love to introduce George, and I think he's in the chat here. I know I saw him for a second, but
He is.
all right, so we're gonna pull him up here in a second. So George works with Dike and Applied, and we met probably 3 years ago when we were starting to work on some recruiting strategies for a large hiring effort, and we've got a few things that have been in the works lately. So George, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself.
So my name is George Chappell. I'm a manager for professional development and technical services training for Dike and Applied Americas. I've been with the company about 4 years, but I've been in manufacturing roughly 32 years. I was actually where I met Jason when I used to work for the MSAMCOE system, which is Minnesota State now. But basically what I guess a program that we have been working on lately is what we call a community training program. I was doing a learner's assessment of new hire employees coming through our orientation, and then essentially found out that 63% of them didn't have basic manufacturing knowledge. And it was very difficult for them to transition out of that orientation into on-the-job training because they didn't have that basic competency, skill set, knowledge set, whatever it may be. And working with the people on the floor, asking them, what are some of the things that you would like for new hires to know before they came in? And compiled a list of those, like I said, skills and competencies and knowledge sets, and worked with FEC, which is Faribault Education Center, on basically offering a free 20-hour program on manufacturing skills that was open to anybody. We're developing that for not only daytime, but also evening classes so that folks can come in if they're working in a job that is, let's say, underemployed, low skill, low pay, gain some skills that would help them transition into our environment and be successful in our environment. We are also, all the trainers that develop the different modules are all volunteer manufacturing engineers from our facility. And they'll do either the evening or the day classes, and our organization is allowing them to take the time, which is 4 hours per module, to deliver that training without, being dock pay or anything along those lines. They actually support this. We're starting to take it a little bit further, but that's one thing that we have done. Another thing is that we are also training more of our people to deliver training properly. We're using TWI job instruction. I don't know if folks are familiar with that, but it's a standardized methodology where people can break down the task of their, or the task within their job into logical sequential steps, so that every new hire that's coming in basically will receive the same consistent training. And what's nice about it, it's both articulated, they have to talk back the job, but they also have to demonstrate that they can do the task. So it isn't just something where people just nod their head, do you understand? They actually have to demonstrate that they can do the task according to the conditions of work as well. And thirdly, we are improving our cultural diversity. The corporate office is launching a collaboration with a company called Mind Gym, and that we are understanding that diversity is a huge part of it. And we are not really tapping into some of our ethnic communities within Faribault and Owatonna, where I also work. And hopefully those programs will start seeing a change in the makeup of the folks in our factories, our facilities. So that's about it at this time.
Thanks, George. One of the things that I really love about the community training program is it's free to the participants, but I mean, I think the ultimate goal is to serve as a feeder into Daikin, but nobody's required to apply, right? So there's this commitment to upskilling for the greater good of manufacturing in the region and in the area of Faribault.
Great, awesome, great stuff. Now I'm going to introduce Della. Her partner in crime is Greg Flint, and hopefully we can pull Greg up on here. And Della, like the other ones, introduce your partner in crime and talk
Absolutely.
about and share some of the good things you guys are doing. So.
Sure. Greg and I go way back. We didn't realize it, but we had a little conversation yesterday. But it is Stearns County, so everybody's related or knows the same people. So I wanted to introduce Greg from Cold Spring. They are known throughout the world for their monuments, their buildings, and even their headstones and everything in between. So Greg, can you talk about how the company has grown to almost 800 employees and some of the different programs that you're running at this time?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And Dylan, just to clarify, I saw there was a question on the Discovery Academy. Should I try to cover that now?
Absolutely.
Okay, and it sort of ties in. So Cold Spring is nearly 125 years old. We are a family-owned business that is in transition from literally the third generation to the fourth generation to the fifth generation simultaneously. And so from that standpoint, one of the things that Della thought would be worth mentioning is our value system is explicitly based on the Christian value system in the Bible. And so we believe in the concept of servant leadership, at which point we expect our leaders to ultimately understand the well-being of their employees. We define the well-being of their employees on 6 dimensions. And so from that standpoint, we look at financial well-being, physical well-being, social well-being, career well-being, community well-being, and spiritual well-being. And with that thought that we're focused on well-being, it gets to the spirit of what ultimately creates engagement. We believe that typically when one of those has a gap, it's what results in a lack of engagement. And so then that's where the servant leadership comes into play. And so the result is, and Della made reference to it earlier, we have over 300 employees that have 25 years of experience. Our average employment is 18 years. And so needless to say, from that statistic, our employee turnover runs under 5% and has for years. This year, we are up 70 people. We'd hire 40 more. Our demand's actually up 25%. So if we could hire 40 more, we'd do it. So I suggest that we have everything solved. We're still working to try to bring more talent in. I'm an example of one of those employees. I started with the company 38 years ago. I started as a maintenance person in our quarry system. And so the company has a tendency to invest in the people, of which I worked my way through, spent time. I'm an accountant. I majored in accounting and computer science, worked my way through the various financial roles, operations roles, and 38 years later, I find myself in the president's role. At which point, my story is typical of a lot of the people at our company. And so, and what that leads to is a concept we refer to as the life cycle of an employee. We look at and ultimately try to understand from pre-elementary school all the way through to retirement. What's the life cycle of our employees and their family? So within the last year, we opened up a daycare in partnership with the local Catholic Church. We are big promoters of VEX robotics. We saw a gap, and I think this goes to Aaron's point, we saw a gap coming in our local community, that there just simply is not enough people entering the labor pool who have either an interest in or even a desire and education in mining, manufacturing, and construction. So we believe VEX robotics is a tool that can be used within the school system to create awareness within the students for the potential of careers in mining, manufacturing, construction. And so we invest quite heavily. We support 5 schools and all of their VEX robotics activities. And ultimately, that VEX activity ties us to the St. Cloud Technical and Community College. Well, that, if you fast forward, leads to this concept of the Discovery Academy. So once you have awareness, once you have an interest, we are now starting in the high school to literally bring students onto our campus. So the Albany school system, the Ricori school system, EVW school system, Kimball and Painesville schools all send their students to us for some TCE, technical education. That education is actually certified by the St. Cloud Technical College. I believe I saw Chad Slosher in the background of Della's. He's back there waving. He was the person who actually did the training on our campus, and he can tell you more about the details of what it all means. Those students, if they come through our Discovery Academy, will in essence get their first year of education taken care of at the technical college. Meaning so once they graduate high school, they've got 1 year left as opposed to the traditional 2 years that are left. Continue on, that brings us into, okay, so once they're educated, they're onboarded, we continue to invest in them, and then we ultimately work through to retirement. And so all our retirees continue to be engaged in the business. Right now, our retirees can get a referral bonus if they bring people in. So the point being, we talk about the lifetime, the life cycle of an employee and its family when we think about Coldspring and how we look at employment. Della, did I miss anything there?
I think you did a great job. We'll talk a little bit about you hiring a chaplain on staff too.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you for those introductions. And I'm going to move my way back here and be able to share these questions. So the next question is going to ask is for the Metro team, discuss agencies and schools are sincerely wanting to foster positive working relationships with businesses in their respective communities. What is one suggestion you would give to help them develop long-term relationships with employers? So I'm going to lead out with the Metro team. Marcy and Scott, can you please speak to that?
Go ahead, Scott. I'll let you start.
Can you state that again?
That sounds really good. That's all good. Agencies and schools want to foster a positive working relationship with businesses in their respective communities. What are some suggestions that you could give to help them develop those long-term partnerships with employers? So what are some ways that these schools and these agencies can reach out to you businesses that can say, hey, look, what can we do together, or what can we do to help support a working relationship with each other?
You know, I think I see it kind of the opposite way. There is more so the businesses, we need to reach out to the schools and the community agencies. And that's one of the biggest things we do is, and I'll just speak specifically with Amazon. I mean, our number one mantra that we speak is customer obsession, right? And that goes not only for our internal employees, but that goes for everybody around us too. So when we talk about the schools and the communities, the biggest thing we do is we try to get back out and we give and we partner with them. So, we have very strong relationships with just a lot of the elementary schools around where we are with specifically like the student supply drives. We do those on a continual basis to try to be involved. Before COVID, we always invited in and welcomed students, schools, different areas for tours to try to show what we're doing, the different processes. Hopefully we get past COVID times and we're again able to open up our doors. But in the interim, it's a lot more of just those activities where we try to go out and actually partner and see what we can still do. Strong relationships with like Second Harvest Heartland, things of that nature, where we'll take our group, offer it up to our associates and allow them to basically be a part of the community and go back and volunteer. And that's one of the biggest things we do is we actually have several specific groups within our organization that are made up only of the associates on the floor, so not even like managers, basically bringing in the ideas of who do you want to be engaged with. And 9 times out of 10, it is their local school districts, it's community agencies that they're involved with. We have several individuals who have children on the autism spectrum. And so we do a lot with partnerships for those organizations. So I think it's got to be more so as the employer reaching out to those agencies versus the other way around. That's my 2 cents.
Marcy, would you like to expand on that? Or any thoughts on that?
Yeah, thanks for that, Scott. Love that idea. And kind of on the flip side, as the flip side of it being more of an agency is, the businesses that we connect to, help them find those other resources that are needed. I think we're really good at doing that. We also have, as Boca Rehab, we have a lot of contracted providers that we work with. And so we all partner pretty closely and talk about our business connections. So we're not bombarding the businesses. They're busy enough right now trying to hire and trying to retain staff. They don't need 15 of us knocking on their doors. So what we really try to do too is kind of keep that single point of contact. And we've done that for years. We started that with Pitney Bowes when Scott was there, as far as like, I was the single point of contact, and any agency that kind of wanted to work with Pitney Bowes, let's first go through us and let's give you the lowdown and kind of move from there.
Good. And I would bet a great way to go ahead and do that would be is almost soliciting information from your employees as well. What do they find passionate about? What do they commonly associate with? What outside groups might be things that are easy connections for the industry to connect into if they want to do a little bit more outreach, especially community service into that area. So now my Southeast team, Jessica and George, what are your thoughts? And I'll let you guys communicate that who wants to lead on with that one.
I'm going to defer to George to kick us off.
So our connection with the community is, or with schools, is mainly with the community colleges. Even though we're getting some inroads with the high school, one topic of discussion that we're having with the Owatonna High School system is they're looking at this community training program in our curriculum, which is around intro to manufacturing processes, precision measurement, basic electrical wiring, interpreting schematics, interpreting blueprints and hand tools, and then lean manufacturing. We're actually in conversations to bring this into the school and teach this to students that may be interested into a manufacturing career. We're also trying to make sure that people understand that sometimes manufacturing kind of doesn't do itself. They're not great marketing agents or something, because when people think of manufacturing, they have a, let me say, a vision of manufacturing is kind of a dead end job. What we're trying to do more and more is to understand that manufacturing positions on the floor can also be pathways into other career fields within manufacturing, such as becoming an engineer, becoming maintenance. We have 4 maintenance apprenticeships program that we partner with South Central College. As a matter of fact, our biggest partner is with South Central College. They've been with us my whole 4 years there, so not a long time. But my whole time there, I've partnered with South Central College to help me. They'll bring in the expertise on some of the training that we don't have in-house, but then also help us develop programs to reach out to the community, and such as the community training program. They gave us access to rooms, allowed us to use classrooms, allowed us to use space for the tactile training, hands-on training, and it proved to be a great partnership. So we're trying to make some more inroads with high school to get young men and women to understand that manufacturing is more than, let's say, standing in front of a press brake. There's other opportunities there, but also connecting with the community college to help upskill and train our incumbent employees as well.
Good. Jessica, would you like to add anything onto that?
Sure. So in our role as workforce consultants in our regions, we tend to be that go-between between our education partners and our employers. And oftentimes we hear, I don't know how to get connected to business and I don't know how to get connected to schools. And so a lot of times we help make connections that way. And so my biggest advice to employers would be to participate when you're asked and to do things like the tour of manufacturing and open your doors so that our youth and job seekers can see what's being made in their own backyards, offer job shadowing experiences, post videos on your websites, show, we've had people that do internships where people start out and follow an order. So they do the complete life cycle of an order from the intake all the way to shipping. Offer experiences like that showcase all the different variety of options that are available within your workplaces.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And George, you know, you hit a heartstring there when you said the word lean. You know how passionate I am about lean. So thank you very much on that. And Jessica, I love the thought of the quote to cash, understanding quote to cash and what it really takes to run operations. What a great thing to go ahead and talk about. Now, my Central Minnesota team, Della and Greg, can you discuss that concept? How do you connect with industry and what do you make for recommendations for those businesses?
Absolutely. Greg is very involved, and so are his leaders within the organization. They support not only their community, but the 30-mile radius of their business and then some. Really making sure that everybody in the area knows who they are. They do a lot of resident recruitment. Why do you want to live here? Why do you want to be part of this community? They're definitely a staple of the Cold Spring, Richmond, Rockville area. Greg, can you talk a little bit about the upcoming CTE Jamboree that you're participating with, Central Minnesota Manufacturing, and some of the other community involvement that you do, including hiring veterans and some of the other areas that you focus on?
I can do that. Dilla, can I jump right back to what I started last time with?
Absolutely.
And so this goes to the people who are trying to figure out how to get a connection to the school system. This may seem like an odd request, but literally we would advocate contact the school system and tell them you want to start a VEX robotics team. You can start a team for $1,000. And what superintendent's not going to want to listen to that story? And now you have the opportunity to take it. And that's literally what we did. We talked to the school, and this is how we ultimately got all the different schools involved. We talked to the schools, said, we'll pay for your VEX robotics team. Well, who doesn't want to have a VEX robotics team in their school? And it leads to everything else. So I would describe it's just a platform to create introductions, and it's low cost. And so from that standpoint, it does a lot of other things, which sort of takes me to Della's question. We, as an organization, believe, and I'm going to go back to Scott's point, we believe we have an obligation to reach out to the school system. We're not waiting. There is not a superintendent in the area or a principal, middle or high school, that I don't know within that 30-mile radius. And so from that standpoint, we're connected to them. We want them to think of us as the first choice they look to when they have an issue to overcome. An example, and Della, I'll come to your point about the CMMA event here shortly. Last summer, the Ricori school system was trying to figure out how to hold a graduation ceremony. The person that got the phone call was me. At which point we created a platform, we created a sound system, we created an ability for the high school to host graduation. When you have the relationship to the point where the superintendent is calling you and calls you Greg, as opposed to some other, Mr. and so on down the line, that relationship is what enables a lot of other stuff to happen. And I would advocate it's that we in business are the ones who need to reach out. So I agree with Scott. I've yet to reach out to a superintendent or a principal and not have them openly encouraged. At which point, so I'm going to jump over to Della's point, we are completely open with tours and things like that. So along those lines, literally every teacher, every cook, every janitor at the Rocori school system has toured, and all new employees tour our facilities for a day to learn about who we are. And I think Georgia gets to your point, the dirt, the dirty, the dungeon, the dangerous. We have to get rid of those paradigms. We're not that anymore. And unless we take a proactive approach to help remove those perceptions, they're going to still linger. And so from that standpoint, Della makes reference to the CMMA. The Central Minnesota Manufacturing Association, the CTE teachers are going to be hosted at the Rocori school system. I'll be participating in that event, sharing with the teachers in the community who we are, what Cold Spring's doing, what's the Discovery Academy about, and ultimately opening our doors again up to another tour. The person who's running that event is another superintendent. He's been here, he's toured the facilities, he knows what part he wants to tour this group through and those sorts of things. So the point is, it's going from just, by the way, can you do something for us? It's going to the point of it's a relationship, and now we look for the win-win.
Excellent. Great answer. Great answer, Greg.
Good, thank you. I'm going to throw a next question out there. Retention is key in 2021. Replacing great employees is expensive, and keeping your best and brightest engaged can be challenging at times. What talent retention strategies have you implemented that are making a difference in your company? And I'm going to flip it around this time, and I'm going to have Greg and Della lead out with this, my central team. Let's go backwards and try to do this.
I like it.
Surprise, surprise.
I like it. Greg, I want you to kind of talk a little bit about your referral bonus rather than a recruiting bonus and what that means to your staff. And then also talk about your Century Club and that retention and what that means for not only your business, but the community that we live in.
Okay, sure. Well, so when Dale and I talked, there was a lot of, let's say 6 months ago, there was a lot of news about companies who were doing recruitment bonuses. We did some research, and the data tells us that it's the wrong way to go. And I don't know the exact quote, but it's something to this effect. When you give someone a bonus as a recruitment, round numbers, 25% of those employees will be with you after 2 years. On the flip side, if you do referral bonuses, which means you're relying on your existing workforce to do the recruitment, something like 40% of those employees will be with you after 4 years. And it was with that logic and then the desire to engage our employees in the process of recruiting that we went down the path of referrals. And we actually extended that referral bonus plan out to the retirees. So if someone retired 10 years ago, they can get a $2,500 referral bonus if they bring us, and ideally, family and friends sort of approach. So the end result is we're doing a referral bonus rather than something along the lines of the recruitment bonuses that a lot of other companies are doing. And then that leads to the Chairman's Club. So we, that group of employees that are 25-year employees, when we onboard someone, we expect that group to mentor them, to help make them feel welcome, and along those lines to ultimately help make sure that that employee sticks, so that we don't end up with that statistic of, yep, brought them in and you lost them, brought them in and you lost them. It doesn't mean that our turnover with those new employees is still higher than we want, but we're working through the Chairman's Club, in addition to their supervisors and their managers, to try to make sure that those employees feel welcome and onboarded. Again, part of our concepts, part of our effort to use the concept of well-being 6 and eliminating gaps.
Thank you. And sorry, I called it the Century Club. It's the Chairman's Club. I apologize for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. And I love that onboarding process, right? It's that mentoring, it's making people feel good when they come in. And really, I think I always looked at it with regards to how can we help a new employee answer the question at the dinner table that night, how was your day today? And at least if they can have that conversation and we can help them do that, that's that onboarding process of feeling comfortable. So thank you very much for sharing that. You know what, Jessica and George, I'm going to throw this one at you guys. So talk to me about best strategies for making a difference of employee retention. What are you finding that's successful? So please share that, discuss that.
So George, I know that Daikin does a lot with surveying and engagement surveys and training surveys, and which is a strategy that we often talk about, the importance of engaging with your workforce early and often. So I'm wondering if you could share some things that have come out of your surveys or some other retention strategies that have been employed.
Yeah, so when I'm onboarded, so I guess a little bit of my background, you know, it's funny because the technical training doesn't fit me, let's put it that way. So I'm more of when I came aboard, I do more organizational performance and workplace learning. By the way, Greg, I also have a master's in theology. So, but the first thing that I did was a needs assessment because obviously our retention wasn't good. And I needed to understand the problem. So the strategy that we incorporated was, do we really understand why people are leaving our organization? And so we did a needs assessment. We Paretoed the problem. So basically a needs assessment, what we did is we looked at the extant data, you know, like exit interviews, interviewed current employees in a sense, and try to get an understanding what our current state was. Then we conducted a survey with the entire workforce, and you're looking at over, at that time, almost 1,500 people. You know, we're an organization total of 67,000 people globally, but within our organization, we did a survey and started to listen to the voice of the employee. From there, we did focus groups. And then we got a better story of what some of the problems were and how we could address them. So then we took that and we compiled a report and we gave it to our leadership group. And we started to strategically address how do we improve our communication between our supervisors and frontline supervisors and employees? How do we provide better training? I think, Jason, you were talking about the greatest opportunity that every organization has is that first 90 to 120 days of an employee's life with you. If we don't properly socialize an employee to the culture of the organization, we find out that most people leave within that time. So making that first impression, it may sound cliche, is very important for an organization. And then somebody else said culture. Do you really have the culture that is welcoming, inclusive to employees coming in? We found that in our survey as well. But what we continued to do wasn't just to do a one-time survey. We continued to give a survey every year. And how are we doing? And started to use that as our metric to see, are we improving the culture? Are we improving that experience? But also are we meeting the needs of incumbent employees? And one of them again was additional training. So partnering with South Central College again, started to provide additional training to our incumbent employees as well as new employees in the door. Just got done with a survey actually last week. And one of the top things was employees want an opportunity to either get a credential, an industry recognized credential, or a college degree. So we, September 30th, I got a call out to the leadership or report out to the leadership the results of the survey. And that's one of the things that I'm gonna really propose is how do we open the door for employees to gain further education than what they have, not necessarily relevant to their job or aligned with their job, but just allow them to try to get something that may be interesting to them. And then also just strategically look at some of the other issues that we got to deal with and start working on that. But through the 4 years, we see an increase in our retention. Sorry, I don't have the exact numbers, but we're seeing an increase in our retention and we're also seeing an increase in our engagement. So we got positive trends moving forward as we do this. So.
Jessica, would you like to add anything on that?
Oh, that's great, thank you.
Awesome. And I love to hear the investment in the employee, and especially the investment into their education and their desire to go ahead and do that. What a great opportunity for them to feel empowered, empowering the employee for those opportunities. So that's really awesome. And now with Marcy and Scott, help me out with what are some retention strategies that you guys would like to share?
Yeah, I'll start here, Scott. I know we talked a little bit about, when you were at Pitney and some of the retention strategies and really trying to make it more inclusive for everyone. But I also know you have things you're doing with Amazon right now. So would love to hear all of those retention strategies that you guys are working on.
Yeah, so if you pull up Jessica, Sean, and Della's presentation, like just run down every one of those, and that's pretty much what we're trying. So
That's awesome.
So in prep for this, I was reading through our own Amazon statistics. We have 1.3 million employees, like worldwide, right? 1 in 150 Americans works for Amazon. Like you just keep going down the list. There's a lot of those things. So let's just get down to my site because I can't speak for the whole company because we try a lot of different things. Amazon as a whole just rolled out within the last month that they're also going to be doing tuition reimbursement full for any full-time employee. You want to go get a degree, like they're paying for it. That's phenomenal. But the biggest problem we have, or the biggest opportunity where we like to focus a lot of our efforts, is honestly on within our own building. Like, how do you impact the people within your four walls? And on our individual shifts, we have over 400 associates. So it can be challenging to make sure that we're getting that engagement that each of the other gentlemen have spoken to. But that's kind of the biggest key, right? For retention is still making sure that you don't feel like you're just another cog in the system. And I can speak for a guy who's only been with Amazon for less than 2 years now. Like, you can feel like you're a cog in the system if you don't approach it the right way. And so one of the biggest strategies we have, honestly, is we actually have a requirement for our managers to go out and log a certain amount of engagements on a daily basis. And that may sound a little odd, but it's to make sure that we are giving everybody that I guess that personal touch and feel on a regular basis. And maybe it's not hitting all 400 associates, but we have different campaigns that we try to hit. If you're within your first 90 days, like every one of us at my level it's a requirement. We'll go out and it's systematically meet every new hire, introduce yourself, spend some time with them, get to know them. And we track it, we report it because, well, until we get it as just kind of your second nature, you got to track it. People aren't going to do it. But one of the bigger things, and I think one of my favorite things about Amazon retention is, as we look at our leaders, right, and just my portion of the industry, we call it these sort centers. We're hiring 70,000 employees over the next year. But in order to do that and to expand the types of facilities that we're doing, we need leaders. And those leaders, we can't just bring in off the street because they don't all have that background. So what we offer up is a lot of opportunity. And that's, I think, the biggest key. And I think that's what really allows us to retain people is you can see what's out there in the spectrum. And if you're an individual in Minnesota hired in at whatever level, just whatever, call it an L3. We have this cool numbering system. It's great. Gotta love it. Bezos is a 12 in case anybody wants to know. But if you're a 3 in Minnesota and you see a 3 opening anywhere else across the country, you can transfer. And it doesn't have to be in your specific field. It can be in robotics. It can be in project management, whatever the case may be. But they open up the different opportunities just because it does give you just that chance to go and diversify your own skill set. And I think that's one of the biggest things. It goes back to that investment in your people. One of the other things that I love is we have our own robotics university because Amazon robotics are their own hybrid, whatever they are. And as any associate, you can come in and you can enlist in this university. It's all online. And then at some point in time, you actually get to go in and do hands-on courses at some different facilities across the country. So it's a lot of investment just in terms of that opportunity, that skill set, the educational piece, and then just giving you a lot of that other work hard, have fun, make history type of stuff. We celebrate everything. We had a woman hit our 1-year anniversary yesterday and we had a cake for her. It was one of our hourly associates. but it's celebrated, it's out on the floor. We try to do our best to go out and identify those themes, even in a group of 500 people. So I think those are the key elements. It's, you've got to be able to still, regardless of the size of your organization, get that personal touch, have that investment in your people. And again, the opportunities, you got to give them a glide path.
Awesome. Would you like to expand upon that, Marcy? Anything you'd like to expand on that?
Nope, he did great.
Okay, very good. That was outstanding. Again, what we heard, investing in the people. So that's a great thing. As companies continue to look at pools of talent to attract, what changes are you making in your organization to best accommodate and engage these new groups? So what we're thinking is thinking outside the box here. What are some ways you're reaching out to people with disabilities as being a possible new group, or veterans, women, immigrants, refugees, justice involved, BIOP? Help me out with that. So let's go with the Southeast team to lead out with that. Jessica and George, you're my team leaders on this one. Talk to me about what you're doing with these other groups to engage as new groups, new opportunities. What are you seeing in that?
I'll let you go, George, to talk about what Daikin's currently working on. I know that we have some strategies that we're currently building, but if you want to speak to anything that you've currently implemented.
Well, right now we're in the process of implementing a broader diversity program. But when we talk about this, ultimately it's about culture. So diversity is an aspect of culture that I think people wrap everything around diversity as opposed to looking at culture as a whole. And so we're looking, and so I'm trying to be very kind here, but as a company, we start to understand our problems. I think that was the biggest thing that Daikin did is there was a self-awareness of we got to do better. It's no longer the field of dreams concept within manufacturing that we have a job and they will come. I think the better question that we started asking is, why do people want to work for us? And we have to look and say, where do we need to improve? And one of the most significant improvements that I see with Daikin is they understand that they need to improve their culture. We're in rural, Southeast Minnesota between Faribault and Owatonna. We got 3 facilities. And we do not necessarily represent the communities, the ethnic communities that comprise Owatonna and Faribault. So one of the things that we did is we purposely in that community training made sure that we understood that we were reaching to our Latino, our Somali population, and our Hmong populations to help them gain the manufacturing skills if they lack them in order to be successful. We also reached out to those community leaders to understand what a company needs to understand about those cultures, as far as prayer cycles, as far as anything that would make them feel more comfortable and home in our facilities. But we're just not deploying these things as a strategy to get people in the door. We're actually deploying these because we do want to be a better company. We want to be a company that, and I think somebody alluded to this later, that at the dinner table or in talking with friends, if somebody asks, where do you work? And they say Daikin, and they say, hey, how do you like working there? And they say, it's a good company. I like it there. That's the highest praise that I think a company can get in the community, when employees are proud that they work there and they speak kindly of the company. And I think that is a strategy that Daikin is really trying to employ now moving forward. We're just not a company where you get a paycheck. We're a company that you can see a career at. And I think that's one of the most important things that we've learned over this time. I think COVID brought out a lot. How do we make people feel safe, not only physically, but also their beliefs? Everybody's dealing with the 2 sides of the COVID story there. How do you listen to people in that and make sure that not only people feel safe physically from COVID and that you're taking the right steps, but that culturally you're sensitive to what people believe about that as well. So there's a lot of moving parts going on right now in our company, but I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. And from the top down, from Mike Schwartz all the way down to me, and down to the hourly employee, that message is getting communicated pretty strong. So
All right,
that's where we're going.
sounds great. Greg, I'm gonna let you jump into that as well. He's with the central team. Talk to me about what you're doing to best accommodate and engage new groups as a business.
How'd you hire those 70 people?
All the above. We're doing all sorts of things. The one thing that I haven't heard yet, but I guess I'll share is within social media, we're doing geofencing. And so from that standpoint, we've literally deployed our marketing people the same way that you would go about trying to do lead generation for customers. Our marketing team is proactively looking to try to create leads, which are employees who ultimately then show an interest. And so I could get into a lot of technical stuff, but the short version of it is when you walk into a field store, or you walk into a certain store and all of a sudden you get ads that pop up, you can do the same thing with employees or prospective employees. And if that employee or that prospective employee clicks on the button that says, heard about your profit sharing and your 401k, that leads to another button, which is basically it's called a quick app. You give us your name, you give us your telephone number, and you give us your interest. That immediately goes to the manager of that area, and within 24 hours, you will get a phone call from that manager. We have literally had employees who went from quick app to on the job within 24 hours. Our HR department will do all the regulatory paperwork after the fact, so that it's our perception that time is money, or in this case, if that person expressed interest, if we don't respond quickly, there's a very good chance they could be moving on to the next person. So all the EEOC requirements and all that stuff, we do it all after the fact, as opposed to before the fact. So I don't know, that's probably something that we're doing that I've not heard yet by the group. But to George's point, we're focused on culture, focused on well-being. To that point on well-being, we saw a gap around social and spiritual well-being that just this last couple of years has really popped up. That's what led us to hiring in a chaplain. What I'm finding interesting is we're sharing that with the community. And the end result is there are people who are saying, I want to work at a company that has someone that works in the company that cares that much. And so it's different things like that we're trying. And, again, we would hire more if we could. Right now, I just believe there's a shortage. And so the end result is we're doing all the above.
Good. All right, thank you.
Just can I make a comment?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure can. Go ahead.
This is Gwen. I work with a lot of schools around the Mankato area, and I just wanted to make a comment about, Greg, what you were just saying. I have heard from the Mankato district specifically that they have a lot of students applying for jobs in high school, and the turnaround time from when they submit their application online to when they get a phone call, it's too long. And these kids are moving on and they're going to different places. So they have encouraged some of their local employers, you got to move that up a little bit. 24 hours, if you get much past that, you've lost them. So I think with that younger generation, we really have to remember they're used to everything fast. And if we have that hiring process or even an initial contact to be 2, 3, 4 days, they've already got a job somewhere else. So thank you for bringing that up.
Good. All right, Scott, I'm gonna let you finish up this question. We got just a few minutes left. I got one last question, and we'll have to be brief with both of those. So Scott, talk about what you're doing about retention.
Well, if I can piggyback on that real quick.
Good.
So one of the things that we do at Amazon, and it's not just the application, but it's also once you have that interview, how quickly do you hear results on it? And we literally have, it's a 2-day requirement that if once you've interviewed with Amazon, you hear in 48 hours what the answer is. So because they move too fast.
Yep, they do.
And then just going off of, and I apologize, Greg, all of your pop-up ads are powered by AWS.
I figured so.
You're welcome.
Most of our strategies go right in line with what the other gentlemen have mentioned. I think just going same thing as George, like getting into the local centers and trying to see what the population is that's around your area has been key to us. And so Just building off of that, one of our largest strategies to try to track that is actually making certain that we hire individuals who can speak the native languages. And so as we bring in associates, the biggest key for us, and I'll just pull out like our Somali and our Hmong populations, we make certain that we have representatives who are faces and voices for those communities available on every one of our shifts. And that's one of the biggest ways that we're able to not just be able to make certain that our employees are getting all the full messages, but it's also they take that information back to their local community centers, and it gives us an opportunity to then basically, it's still the word of mouth. We're able to spread things that way, and do a lot more of our workforce staffing or whatever the case may be for those job fairs of sorts in the native tongue per se. So not much more to add. The other two gentlemen already covered the exact, I mean, we're all trying the same things. It's just a race to see who can get them.
Right. Thank you. Chris, did we have some questions come in from the chat?
No, more just comments about what people were saying and
Okay.
posting things about stuff they offer. So I think that's stuff we can put on our website.
Okay, that sounds really good. I'm gonna roll into the next question then, since I can leverage my time. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. How can DEED and Minnesota State colleges and universities support you in your workforce efforts? So here's some resources. And I know that a lot of our audience is gonna be educators and tied to education. There'll be some industry members in there as well. But the question is, how can these people as resources support your workforce efforts? So I'm going to have Scott lead out on this one. So Scott, will you lead out on that, please?
I think the biggest thing that's been successful through all the different companies I've been with, partnership with DEED is going back to Marcy's point, making certain that we have a point of contact, ensuring you know who your local resources are. And if you don't have that resource, then figuring out who the regional one is or whatever the case may be. But ensuring that whatever business is being involved with either the chamber groups, whatever the case may be, but making sure that you're visible and that everybody does know who they can reach out to. And not only that, but then what other services can you provide? And Marcy alluded to it. DEED's the one who was able to bring in interpreters for us to teach all my managers sign language, basic sign language. We didn't know what types of partnerships we needed, but by being able to utilize the skilled staff out there, I mean, they come in, invite them into your shops, whatever you're running, give them a chance to look around, see what you're doing, let them see if there's opportunities potentially to carve up a job. Have you ever looked at things this way or that way? I mean, it's the same as anytime we bring in a new manager to a site, it's fresh eyes take a new look at things. And because they're experts in their field with whatever populations they might be working with, they're going to have potentially different ways to look at it and then just leverage those skill sets.
Good. George, I'm going to pick on you now. I believe you and I have walked a couple of shops together. I'm going to let you go ahead and answer this as well. How can DEED and Minnesota State colleges and universities support you in your workforce efforts?
Well, let's put it this way. The illusion of my competency is because of DEED and Minnesota State colleges, because my partnership with them, or my company's partnership with them, has really helped us to provide training that otherwise we couldn't have, to bring new strategies. I know like Jessica is working with our leadership in HR on new strategies to recruit, to retain new employees and recruit new employees. And that's invaluable, because sometimes we get into our herd think in a company and we need fresh perspectives, and that's what DEED brings in to our organization. I know Kelsey's on, so I'm going to give Kelsey Woods-Nor a shout out, because my partnership with her, I don't know how many times she has helped me to clarify things, to correct things, to give me new ideas on grants, on trainings. And my partnership with her in these past 4 years and even before that has been invaluable to me in my success. So I really appreciate that representation from South Central College into our organization as well. So I don't think that the programs that have been implemented and brought forward in future programs that we're looking to do would not happen without DEED and South Central College and Minnesota State Colleges. And Jason, yes, even your influence on the lean. I talked to some of our engineers who went through Minnesota State. One of them, Spencer, who talks of you very fondly. Once again, the influence there has been great with Minnesota State, us really drawing from the engineering program from there. So once again, it may not be seen outwardly, but it's definitely there. It's definitely impactful.
Awesome, thank you. Greg, I'll let you go ahead and expand upon that. What are some opportunities that you see?
Actually, I'll do the same thing. I'll call out Gail from the GSDC, could probably elaborate on this. So as a company, we do mining, manufacturing, and construction. There are some things we can do in our quarries and our plants that we can't do in construction because there are regulatory restrictions that prohibit it. And so if the MDE, DEED, whatever it is, could help us to reevaluate some of those restrictions, it would open up the opportunity for us to get kids who are high school age exposed to careers in construction, plumbing, cement work, and so on. I think Gail Cruikshank could give you more details on the efforts we've tried, and to a large degree, we failed in making much of any progress on that front.
Greg, do you want to mention too about the 2-year degree versus 4-year degree?
Yeah, so
Sorry.
So like me, the company has a tendency to invest in people. And so we literally sent someone through a 2-year electrical tech program. 2 years, and that employee is on our payroll. After that, we then had to send him through a 2-year master's program to get his electrical program or his electrician's training. So he could be a tech and a master electrician that works for us. And then we said, oh, by the way, would you mind becoming an electrical engineer? He literally had to start over. So 5 years later, he got his electrical engineering degree. For whatever reason, the training he received as electrical tech, the training he received as going for his electrician's degree, both 2-year degrees, and then his effort to become an electrical engineer, none of that, helped each other out. So to me, and then now it's fortunate for us, is the way we do it for every year we pay for it, you owe us 2 years, we have him for life. But there is a bigger question on why should someone have to go through that level of education when a lot of the stuff, there should be transferability. Della, am I getting into the spirit of your question?
Right, yep.
Right, and I think from a Min-State system, they're working very, very hard on credit for prior learning and trying to get that engaged into it as well. It just takes a little bit of time, I think, and that's what we're trying to do. I know there's a lot of talk about it, and we look forward to, very much to your point, those opportunities. And the reality is that sitting in a classroom with somebody with that much experience, think of the growth and the development that happens to all the other students that have the opportunity to listen to this person talk about their real world experience and what it all really means, and helping them connect the dots, which I completely agree with you as well, having that kind of connection and that kind of opportunity in the classroom. So we're at the 5-minute. I don't know, were there any questions that came across, Chris, that I can go ahead and quickly address?
No real questions from now. It's just more a lot of comments.
Okay.
Some chats going back and forth about the great things DEED and the companies are doing.
Okay, good. Well,
But like I said, we'll compile any questions,
Yep.
send out to the panelists if they want to answer, and then we can post those on our websites.
okay, that sounds wonderful. Well, we're at the 5-minute mark. Any closing thoughts? George, I'll let you lead out.
No, I thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate this opportunity to speak on behalf of my company, but also also truly promote and honestly promote DEED and the Minnesota State Colleges. So thank you very much.
Yes. Scott.
No, nothing else here either. Thank you again. Same comments, our partnership with DEED has been very successful, and a lot of the things I've done in companies over the past years wouldn't be standing where they are with the types of people, the types of cultures that they've built without those relationships too. So haven't had a chance to work with state colleges a lot. We'll see if we can expand upon that, but nothing else here.
Good, great.
I would echo what they're saying. Thank you for the invite. As a company, we believe in the principle of giving back. Hopefully what we're doing is sharing information that allows others to do better. And the belief is that when others are doing better, we're all doing better. And so from that standpoint, I appreciate the invite. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much to my industry members and taking the time to contribute to this. How about my D panelists? Any final comments? Jessica, do you have anything to say? Finish out on?
I just want to thank all of our employers for participating on our panel today. We just appreciate your willingness to share your best practices and wisdom, and we know that our employers do too. That's always the favorite part of any event that we belong to and are part of is hearing from you. So thank you.
All right, Della?
I echo that, and for the small town of Cold Spring to have such a large employer really speaks leaps and bounds about how they treat their employees and have grown not only their business but their communities. So if you go to DC, I just actually came back, 90% of the memorials that you see out there are made right here in our state at Cold Spring. So I'm super proud. My dad started working there, gosh, back in 1945, I think we figured out. And I just mentioned a couple names to Greg, and he right away knew that my niece worked there. So with 800 employees, and he knows that my niece had worked there, that's pretty amazing to me. So that says a lot about the company.
Good. Marcy?
Yeah, just echo what they said. Thank you to all the employers, to the educators on here. Thank you for reaching out to Deed and letting us be a resource for you. And just know we are always here for you and we'll help you find the answers.
All right, so I want to close out. I want to thank you all for attending. I want to thank my speakers and my panelists. You guys did a wonderful job. Great insight, great ideas that you come up with. Remember, there'll be a survey coming out in the next couple of days. We're looking for feedback. How can we get better? That's really at the end of the day what we're trying to do to get better, to provide you more information and more ideas. The video would be available for both our websites, the Engineering Center of Excellence and the Advanced Manufacturing Center of Excellence will both have the video available as well. And then remember, go ahead and send me an email for your professional development hours. Those of you that need that, I'm more than happy to go ahead and customize that and send that to you as well. You can go to the Engineering Center of Excellence website and look me up and request that. And again, look for our next happening probably in the spring for another event like this. And it was mentioned earlier, the tour of manufacturing. I want to make sure that you're aware of the free education tools sponsored by our advanced manufacturing team. They have some wonderful teacher tools for those tours, right? How can we accent our educators so they can have conversations with the students before and after the tour? And there's some tools available, free tools of all things free tools available for those educators and help that conversation. Again, tour of manufacturing, the month of October. Look forward to seeing all those great businesses and all that participation. Again, thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening and look forward to seeing you in the spring.
See ya.
Thank you. Thanks.